Hey guys, it's Nemo and welcome to World of Warships. Today's video is in the mighty Conqueror, the Tier 10 Royal Navy battleship, or if you play it properly, the Tier 10 Royal Navy supercruiser. Now, I wanted to show you this because this is my first battle with over 200,000 damage. I've finally joined the 200,000 damage club, and I would love to just be able to keep doing it. It'll be absolutely great. So, just a quick, I guess, warning or disclaimer: do not use this as my Conqueror tutorial or how to play. I will do one of those because I can tell you what, in this game, how to play the Conqueror pretty much goes out the window. The only thing that I probably get right is switching ammo, and then again not even always doing it right then. But here we are on one of my least favourite maps, is Shatter map. Now when I play Shatter I like to start over near the C cap. I think it's a lot better. But we've spawned over near the A cap, and the first thing I notice is that our Richelieu is reversing away. Our Tier 8. Now this happens a lot, especially with Tier 5 and Tier 8 ships when they're facing Tier 7s and Tier 10s. You'll notice that the bottom tier ships will just leave the battle. And you know what's really frustrating is that sometimes these guys get more XP than some of the guys who have put in and tried to win the game and play the game, and it's really frustrating. Anyway, so for this map, the reason I'm coming out here to start with is because the enemy seem to push down the 1-2 line on this map quite a lot, so I've come out to try and counter them a little bit. Whereas really I'd like to go and sit between A and B, but because I'm the only battleship here, I'm going to need to get in their way, so to speak, and stop them from coming down. So my division mates, Howie and Cackle, one of them, Cackle in the Zhao, he's gone off to capture B, because B is usually a free cap straight at the beginning of the game on this map. No one really goes for it to start with, and if you do go for it in the start, usually you're going to get a cap off. So Howie's out here with me in the Hindenburg. Hindenburg is a great kiting cruiser and has that quarter penetration on her high explosive, so she can do quite a fair bit of high explosive damage. And so can the Conqueror. You'll see me firing high explosive a bit in this battle, and people will call you noob for firing high explosive in a Conqueror. And the reason they'll do that is because they don't understand the mechanics. The Conqueror has a 48% chance of setting a fire. Now I run Demolitions Expert on my Royal Navy battleships just for the shits and gigs. And you can see there I mistimed the turnout pretty badly, and Duelist up there in the Kurfürst, who is a problem for the entire battle, hit me quite hard. The Conqueror might have a lot of health, but it does take a lot of penetration damage. Same with fire damage. But anyway, as I was saying, the high explosive on the Conqueror has a quarter penetration, the same as the Germans. Now what that means is that you take the gun caliber and you divide it by 4 instead of 6, and that means that's how much armor you can penetrate. So the other good thing about the Conqueror, as I said, is it has the 48% chance of fire. Now when I put the Dems Expert on, Demolition Expert, it goes up to 51. And that's ridiculous. It's great if you're a Conqueror player, ridiculous if you're anybody else. And so what I'm trying to do here is, at this kind of range, the short fuse armor piercing on the Conqueror isn't as effective as the high explosive. So the high explosive can do a lot more damage at this kind of range, because even though it might hit and shatter, or it's not likely to shatter with Conqueror 419mm. You can also go to the 457mm guns, which give you an accuracy buff, but you lose a lot of DPM. But you see there, I got a couple of penetrations and a couple of fires, and so the splash damage that it will cause, especially in this meta of aircraft carriers everywhere, if you can hit enemy battleships, especially things like Montanas for example, with your high explosive and just destroy their modules, your aircraft carrier is going to have a much better time going in against the enemy, because he's going to be able to knock them off without having so much anti-air fire at him. So the only problem with being out here on my own is the fact that I'm an aircraft carrier's wet dream, so to speak. That's what they look for. Aircraft carriers will look for those lone ships that are out there on their own, isolated, so that they can't do any damage to them. Even though the Conqueror has quite a fair bit of has a good AA suite. So now the shots on the Baltimore here, you can see my teammates and I knew that we were getting outflanked, so my division mates and I. So what we decided to do was call shots on the targets that were capping. So if we could delay the caps, even though we were going to be outnumbered, then we could slow the game down. Now I've already used one of my super heals, and it's not long before I actually have to use them both, which is quite frustrating. But that's the good thing about the Conqueror. She's got the lowest initial health pool of any battleship in the game, but once you calculate in the super heals, if you've got 3, which I have here, or if you run the Superintendent, which gives you 4, you then have the biggest health pool of any battleship in the game when you calculate all that together. So you might take a lot of damage, but you can dish out a lot of damage. And as you see here, I popped my heal. Now because I took massive amounts of penetration damage, the heal is not as big as what I would like it to be. Unfortunately our gearing beaches here, he's under a lot of pressure from the Sailor, which is radar cruiser, and the CV, the enemy aircraft carrier, giving him a hard time, and no one's really that close that we can help him, which is one thing that's great about the Conqueror is it's got a 12.3 kilometer detection, so you want to get in there close and help out your destroyers. The only reason I'm not right now is because I've been forced away off that flank, and you can see the Yamato and the Jean Bart coming down the one line there. Now for me as a World of Warships player, captain, whatever you want to call it, those 2 battleships coming down there is not the right move, because they're going to start taking themselves out of the battle. What the Kurt first up there has done, Duelist, as you can see up there, is come back in off the line and headed towards the cap. It's the caps that are winning the game. Yes, we might have 4 kills to 2, but we've got so many points because we've had all 3 caps for so long. And there's an early game I've played and recorded on my YouTube. It's called Why You Must Cap. It's in the Atlanta, and we were getting absolutely smashed, but we won the game because we held the caps. So my division mates come back over. We got rid of the Baltimore in B. Now we're trying to delay this flank as much as we can, so our other flank can have the chance to come in and support us. But so how he goes down, he's a little bit broad there to the Yamato, but either way he was in a rock and a hard place. He was going to be broad to either a Kurfürst or a Yamato and a Jean Bart, but he gets the kill on the Salem, which is good. And then Cackle, same thing, trying to delay the cap as much as we can, sails in, and he'll eventually get killed too. So I switched to the high explosive again, that great Royal Navy high explosive, and I slow down a little bit, and Cackle's in front of me there, so I'm trying to support him as much as I can, even though he's in a crossfire, so he's not going to last too long. Even the Zal's trollish armor can't really hold up against a crossfire. So Duelist is in the cap. The Kurfürst there is in the cap. So I want to try to reset that as much as I can. If I can get some fires on him, that'll be great, because I was thinking that these torpedoes here from Cackle are going to hit, but then I see that they run out. And you can see the Kurfürst just slowing down. He's trying to stay in the cap, but get far enough behind the island that he can't be seen while capping out. And in the meantime, I'm eating a lot of penetration damage, as you can see, and have to use my last heal. So I'm up to 13 cap defenders now, which is a lot of experience for any ship, let alone a Kurfürst on its own, a Conqueror on its own, sorry. So now that I know that the Kurfürst can't hit me anymore, I decide to keep running and fire at the two battleships that have overextended. The Yamato there, sorry, gets in, hits me in the rear quite hard, and as everyone knows, the 18-inch guns on the Yamato can overmatch any armor. It doesn't matter from where or what angle. That's the Yamato's party trick. And so I just stay with the high explosive because it's more likely to be guaranteed to do damage at an angle than what my short fuse AP is. And then we set a fire, and I'm using the Richelieu, who ran away at the start of the battle, as a decoy pretty much. I'm just letting him sit there and take the damage from the Yamato while I get shots off as much as I can. Now the AP would do good here, yes. Maybe not now that the Yamato is starting to angle in as much, but I wanted to get another fire because I noticed that he had he'd hit his damage control party. So he put the fire out. Now there's another 2 fires burning on him, and he's not going to have a great time. He's just going to keep burning down. Hopefully we can burn him out. And then he fires at me again. Now this is one thing that a lot of players do in the game. He's got a ship in front of him that he could delete easily. Finish it off before you start firing at something else. There's so many times where a player will be left alone and he'll have 1,000 health and he'll come back and win the game. And if you had killed him earlier on, it would have changed the entire way that the game was played. So I fire again, get another fire on him. He starts burning, but then, he's been burning for a while, but then Lexington torps him and gets the kill. So, but that's alright. I leave the Montana down here, and the reason I left the Montana alone is because the Montana and the Jean Bart one-on-one. The Jean Bart hasn't got the armor penetration on her guns to fire through the front of the Montana, so if the Montana plays his cards properly, he'll win that battle relatively easily. So I stay with the high explosive. Yes, armor piercing would have been great, but the high explosive, as I said, has the better chance of dealing out the damage. So you can see there was 4,900 penetration damage plus a fire. Now, I'm trying to reset the caps as much as I can, and even though we're ahead so much, the ship total is almost even now. The Kurfürst fires at me again, and one good thing about the Conqueror is that she can move. If you keep her in the full speed, as I said, like, you can play her as a big cruiser. And so what we're doing here is I'm trying to get away from the Kurfürst, who has proven to be extremely accurate during this battle and hit me quite hard. And so fire off the rear turrets with armor piercing, do some damage, and then I swap to the Neptune, and I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have just stayed with the Conqueror. But as you see, there was the Kurfürst, sorry, there was the 11,000 hit with AP, so the AP does do a lot of damage, and the Kurfürst is notorious for taking big chunks of penetration damage. She might have a great health pool, but the damage that can be done is enormous on her. You might have noticed before with the Yamato, I fired off a salvo of high explosive and did 11,000 damage with high explosive, so it's quite good, as you can see. Like both ammunitions are very good. So I noticed that the Kurfürst Damcons, and he kills off our Iowa, which is unfortunate, but just before he goes dark he fires at me again, and I just wanted to set that fire because of the damage control, and I get the 2 fires on him and he burns to death, and I save the cap. And then he comes in the chat and he says, GG. So 200,000 plus damage. Not exactly how I want to play the Conqueror. I don't want to be running the entire game. I'd rather be close and supporting my destroyers and then pushing around. Having that super heal means that you can push around and do quite well. So Duelist there, I ended up complimenting him. He says great conk, and the gameplay was mainly set about defending our caps in this game, and we did that quite well. The ship tally ended up getting a lot closer than what I was hoping, but it was a good victory, and that's all that mattered. So 224,499 damage, 15 defended ribbons, 13 fires, high caliber and dreadnought. Nothing to sniff at. We finish on top with 2,400 base XP. Now with the premium it was something like 3,700 base XP. But they don't take that into account when you're looking at the base XP for that. Anyway guys, I just thought I'd like to share that with you, my first 200,000 damage game. Let's hope it keeps up and I can get more. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and stay safe out there.